Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Goodness me, excuse me. I've got a little tickle in my throat, so if I cough, you'll have to excuse me. But anyway, we're here. We are live. As you can see, if you're looking at the screen, you can see that I'm here with my co-host, Al Pisano. Say hi, Al.
Hello,
And
everyone.
this is, I thought we'd never get to say this again, Al. It seems so long ago since we said it, that this is Everything is Attitude. And today we have a guest with us, my lovely friend Gary. Say hi, Gary.
Lovely friend.
Hi. And today we're going to, what we're hoping to do is to talk a little bit to Gary. I want Gary to tell his story because he had an amazing experience only a few weeks ago, right, Gary? It was not that long ago.
December.
Right. So what? 3 months ago then, and I was talking to him the other day. We were talking about it, and he actually said it certainly has changed my attitude. This experience has changed my attitude. Now, I've known Gary for a number of years, and I've always felt, Gary, that you've had a very good, very positive attitude. Even when things, aren't going that well, you've always been able to joke and laugh and bring little light and to the situations that you're in. So you can imagine that here I am thinking that you have a great attitude, and then you tell me that this experience has really changed your life and it's sort of made a huge difference to your attitude. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I'm handing over to Al for a moment. Al, do you want to say anything? Have you got anything to add to this introduction here before we go to Gary and hear his story?
No, just looking forward to hearing from Gary and getting back in the swing of it with Everything is Attitude with you. So
I know it's been how many years has it been? I don't know about years, but it's been a long time since we did and Everything is Attitude. And I think we all need a reminder of how, having a positive attitude brings literally positive energy into our lives and helps us to deal even with the worst situations if we have a great attitude, a positive attitude. And also how, conversely, if we have a negative attitude, how that can really make things that are going bad for us, can make them seem even worse, and even to the point where when good things happen to us, we don't even enjoy them because our negativity has become a habit. So, as I've said, Gary, I've known Gary for hundreds of years at least.
25.
25 years, there you are, that's a quarter of a century. So I was not too far off the mark with the 100. Excuse me. And so, Gary, can you tell us first in your words? Now, I've told people on the show before, I've told your story a little bit, but we've never heard it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So in your words, can you tell us, first of all, I'd like to start from the point of having breakfast with your mother. How old is your mom?
95.
She's 95, and she's sharp as a tack, right?
Yeah, very sharp.
Very sharp, very smart. And I know Gary's mom, she's fabulous. She's a wonderful person. So Gary, if you can tell us what happened, and I don't want you to feel shy about it. And if you struggle, I can dive in and give you a little prod here and there. So why don't you tell us a story? I'm not sure that Al's ever heard this story. So why don't you tell us a story, and then once you've told the story, we'll go from there.
Well, it started one morning. I walk over and have coffee with my mother every morning.
Can I stop you? Sorry. Sure. It actually started years ago. With your family.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So give us you don't have to go into detail, but a brief,
well, my mother's always been one who speaks her mind.
That's one of the things that I love about her. And she happened to speak her mind one day and voice how my mother and I are treated differently. And the rest of the family didn't care for that.
She spoke her mind to your brother's wife, I believe, and
My brother's first wife
ex-wife.
and her kids
Yes,
and their kids.
which apparently didn't go down too well.
No, it didn't. And ever since that day, they haven't spoken to my mother at all. There's like a disconnect. They spoke to me, but it's gotten to the point where even I became, distant from the family, all because of that stupid day,
Right. But can I
Um,
also add one more thing? This was, I think this was after your brother had died, wasn't it?
yes.
Gary's brother died very suddenly and with no warning whatsoever, completely out of the blue. So your mother lost a son and you lost a brother, and the two of you were like twins. You were so close together in age, but you were also close together in everything else as well.
Yeah.
So rather than everybody understanding that a lot of what your mother said came from the pain and the hurt of losing a child,
Yeah, I'm sure.
they completely cut her off. But
Yeah, completely.
we actually think that your ex sister-in-law was just simply looking for an excuse to do that anyway, right?
I have no way of knowing that, but I don't know how that would last so long. I thought it would be boom, it'd be over with, but here we are years later.
And that never wanted to talk about it. And when you've asked them,
No.
why they don't have an answer for you, right?
No.
So, okay. So then over the last 2 or 3 years, you've been debating, should you or shouldn't you cut the ties? Because it seems that the only ties you now have to your nephews and nieces, your brother's kids, the only ties that you have are very tenuous, and you've been thinking, should I just, you've only kept up with them, and only perhaps once or twice a year, you've only kept up with them because you felt that your brother really
I thought it would blow over, and I kept my hopes up, but after a while you get to the point where you say, all right, there isn't going to be any reconciliation or anything.
Right.
So that's where it led to that morning.
So you've been thinking for a few days or a few weeks or so before it was coming up to Christmas, and you were thinking, what should you do? Should you cut?
I was thinking the new year coming up.
Right.
The new year coming up was going to be sink or swim, kind of.
Right.
So I decided this is going to be the year that I'm just going to cut the cord.
Right.
And that's when that morning I stated that to my mother. I said, I think it's time that I cut the cord. We're having breakfast or coffee in the morning. And that's my exact words to her. I think it's time that, that I just cut the cord. And she says it's about time, which it was about time, but I was hoping something would change, but it never did.
Right.
So that's what led me to going to Sam's Club.
So after you'd had coffee with your mum, you went off to Sam's Club, right?
Right.
Do a little shopping and everything.
Yeah, get the groceries and stuff and bird food and stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
So
carry on the story.
They had just opened the doors. It's about 5 minutes to 10, December 6th. And I walked in and I see this man looking at me. And all of a sudden he walked over to me. And it seems like everything slowed down. I couldn't hear anybody. I couldn't hear anybody else but him. And he walked up to me and all he said was, "Do you believe in karma?" And I said, "Yes, why?" He says, "Well, I cut the cord with my family a year ago, and I've never been happier. And I'm thinking, why is this man telling me this, you know? And then he just said, well, you have a good day. And he pats me on the shoulder. And that was it. That was it. So I turned around and started to walk in. I took a couple steps, shook my head a little bit, and I turned around, and he wasn't there. I, I, I turned around to see. I think I wanted to say something to him. Like, what did that mean? Or I don't know. I turned
that or something, right?
Yeah, but I turned around and he wasn't there. And there's no place that he could have gone that fast. You know, there's
Right.
so I mean, I was in a daze the rest of that day, just thinking what had happened. I
Well,
called you.
didn't you start sort of as you're walking through Sam's Club? Didn't you start to look for him everywhere you could to see if you could
Yeah,
see him?
well, yeah, I was in there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and I kept looking all over the place. I even walked out in the parking lot, and I'm looking for him out there. And then I figured if he wasn't there when I turned around, because I only took a couple steps when I turned around, and he wasn't where he was, and there's nowhere he could have gone.
Right. So
So
he
I was.
must have just disappeared in a puff of smoke then.
There wasn't any smoke, but he did disappear, you know. And the first thing I did when I got home was call you.
So
And I
hold
wanted-
on, don't say, Al. What do you think so far to this story?
So I had heard this story from you, Rosemary, one other time, and I was in awe then. And I think the audience may not know, but I'm a believer as well. So it's not
Really?
so. But I think it's still when you hear about these things, it's you're. I think we're meant to be in awe, right? We're meant to
Oh yeah.
be like, oh my goodness, what a miracle.
Right.
And it's hard to wrap your head around, right? Gary, you're saying it, but even myself, who's had a couple of experiences, it's hard to like realize that, but you have to just accept it and say, this is what an amazing, amazing thing to happen. And you can be skeptical all you want, right? But the odds of those things happening are astronomical, if not for real, right?
Right.
And regardless, it's real for you, and that's the most important piece.
Well, the thing that got me was he used the same exact words that
Yeah.
I said to my mother that morning, that it's time to cut the cord. Now, who says that?
Nobody says that.
You know,
Um,
and that's the first thing he said. You know, I cut the
So-
cord with my family.
So okay, so now you go home. First thing you do is call me, and
And I said that just happened. Did that really happen? You know? And I knew it did because I was there. But you would know more than, you know what I mean? I know you and you know me and you
Yes.
know more than me. So that's why I asked, you
a
know?
little bit more. And so, do you remember what happened then? We talked about it. Was that the time, or was it the next time you called? I know you called me, but 2 or 3 times over the next several days, every day, because you were still reeling from the experience.
Yeah.
And it was obviously an angel who had come to you. But I think it was either the same day or the next day when you called. Can you remember what happened then?
You're going to have to refresh my memory.
Well, how could you forget that your brother came through from the spirit world?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, how could I forget?
And we talked about your angel, this young man in Sam's Club. You don't, when you're looking for angels, you don't necessarily look in Sam's Club, do you? Or Costco or any of those places.
You know, that's the thing that got me, you know, but I guess it can happen anywhere. I mean,
Anytime.
it does happen anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But we talked about your angel, and we've named him Michael. So, and your brother, what was his response? Can you remember what his response was? Because I think the biggest concern, and the reason you hadn't cut off from your family before, cut the cord from your family before, should we say? I think the reason was because you didn't want to hurt or upset your brother, and so you were trying to do the right thing by him. What did he say?
He said something like, it wasn't so much the kid's fault as it was the first wife's.
Yeah.
First wife's. I mean,
Yeah.
and I kind of suspected that because I always had a good relationship with the kids before that. And
But they're grown up, so they have a choice. So
yeah,
I'm not letting them off the hook. But
no, me neither.
I do remember him saying, I'm going to refresh your memory then, that he did say to you, and it's about time because they don't deserve you. Do you remember that? Do you remember that he said that to you?
Yeah.
So, okay. So thank you for telling us that story, the story of your angel, Michael. You know, who knows when you're going to see him again? They may go out shopping later and see him again. You never know, do you? You'd hope. But anyway.
Rosemary, just as I'm just remembering from when you told me this story too, just so the audience knows a little bit of the background. Gary, you did, try to maintain relationship for all those years after. You sent them gifts, right? Every year, like you did those.
Yeah. Christmas presents every Christmas, I'd maybe see him once or twice a year. Then after a while, I didn't see him at all, or if I did, I'd see one of them once a year.
But then even when you sent gifts and you sent money orders, I think, to not only your nephews, but your great nieces, but your great nephews and nieces as well, that you wouldn't even get an acknowledgement, would you? So,
I did it first.
Right.
But like last year, the previous year, I got one Christmas card from one of them.
Right.
And this year I got nothing. So I guess it was time.
Right.
Kind of confirmed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad story on the one hand, losing your family like that. And also your mother's, this is their grandmother.
Yeah, grandmother and great grandmother.
Who they've turned their back on for all of these years, which is so it's very, very sad. But then when you get this angel coming to you and saying it's okay to let go, is what he's saying. It's okay.
That was confirmation. Yeah.
Let go. It's okay. And to have this angel sort of come out of the blue from nowhere. What a weird question for someone to come up to you and say, do you believe in karma? That's a weird question, right?
Very.
And then to disappear. How many words did he speak to you? I mean, how many words did you speak to it? I think you spoke 3 words to him.
I said 4 words,
Yeah.
And he didn't say many. I mean, he said, do you believe in karma? And I said, yes, why? And then he said, well, I cut the cord with my family a year ago, and I've never been happier. And then he taps me on the shoulder and says, you have a nice day. And I said, you too. So I said, yes, why? And you too. And that's all I said. At the time, I don't think I could have said anything else, I was like, what just happened? But him using the same words that I used that morning, that's what got me.
Right.
And when I turned around and he was gone, it was like, what the heck was that?
You really knew what it was, didn't you? In your heart of hearts, didn't you know what it was?
I did, because I had to. I had no choice to believe. But I still had to call you, because you have connections.
I have a question for Gary. I'm just curious, right?
Go ahead.
I think when we make decisions, things line up, right? Universe wise. And I think that's the why the angel came. If you hadn't had that experience at Sam's, would you have stayed the course and stayed with your decision, or did that solidify it for you?
No, because I knew that next coming year, that before the year came, that was the time. But I still wasn't sure if it was the time. But after he came to me and said that, there was no doubt in my mind that it was time. You know, it was like he gave me the okay, kind of. You know?
I think there's there's a bigger issue here, Al. You know, because the reason that Gary has been doing this and keeping up with this years after your brother died. How many years has your brother been gone now?
Oh, geez, I don't know. He was 55. Maybe 15 or more.
Right. Okay. So all these years after he died, and the reason that you've kept it up, and especially sort of as it went on and it didn't get any better and things weren't resolved, was you wanted to do what was right for your brother. And I think that even if you had stayed the course, and I think probably you would because your decision had been made by then, it's the guilt, it's the residue of the guilt, and always wondering, was it okay with my brother? Did I do the right thing? Is he happy with my decision? Yeah. So I think those things.
I didn't want to let him down, you know.
Right.
I didn't want him to.
Right. And do you feel then that having this experience with Michael, your angel, do you think that that has helped you to not have those guilt feelings, but to know that you're doing the right thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
No
so let's just take a minute. Chris, are you there with us?
I am.
Do we have anybody listening, or are we just talking amongst ourselves here? I should have asked that question.
No, we have people listening and commenting in the chat room.
Okay, so let's have a couple of comments or a couple of questions, and then I would like to talk about, because this show is about everything is attitude. So then I'd like to talk about in what ways, in Gary's words, that his attitude has changed, and because, as I said, always had a good attitude as far as I'm concerned, and I'd love to hear comments from Al as well. So let's have a couple of if there are any questions or anything directed to any one of us.
Yes. Jeff says to Gary, "Thank you, Gary. Another spirit helper helping. I'm glad you received that gift." Mark says, "I love angels unaware. They exist in all forms." And then
That's for sure.
And then Rhonda says, "I remember this story. It's so amazing, Gary." That's it
Great.
for
It
the
is.
chat room right now.
Okay, well, I just want to mention that I'm with my angel, with my two angels at the moment. I'm in New York and I'll be here for a while. So just mentioning that, because my little angel, Reese, and I had a weekend together. His mummy went skiing, and so I stayed home with Reese, and we baked bread. Just saying, angels come in many forms. Right, let's come back to this attitude thing. So Gary, as I've said, you've always had a great attitude as far as I'm aware. In what ways do you think, this is, we'd like to get to this, and now maybe you can help Gary sort of, talk through this with Gary. In what way do you think your attitude has changed? Has it changed negatively? Has it changed positively? In what ways? And how can you give us an example of what you might have done prior to this experience in a situation, as opposed to what you now do in that same situation, and what's changed there?
Well, I've always tried to have a positive attitude Um, but one thing that you said to me, that when doing readings, sometimes you see angels, sometimes they're happy and sometimes they're sad.
Yes.
And after that experience, it changed me, because I don't want to have whoever it is for me on the other side, I don't want to see them sad. So I try not to make them sad, you know? So, I mean, I, I think about people differently. If someone, I'd look at somebody that in the old days, I'd say, "Oh, what's the matter with that idiot?" or something like that, you know? Now it's like, oh, that's just who they are, you know? I mean, none of us are the same. And I realize that now. Nobody should be like me, and I can't be like them. So just let everybody be who they are. I mean, that's
Right. So do you think it's this experience has made you more tolerant of other people and maybe more
much more tolerant.
forgiving of other people's attitudes?
Yes, definitely. Especially, well, you see this transgender thing that's going on now, where men want to be women. And I saw one thing the other day where a woman wants to be identified as a cat.
I know.
You know, I mean, it's getting crazy, you know. But now I feel like you can be anything you want. You can be a kangaroo if you want to. Just don't hop in front of my life. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So tolerance
Right.
has changed in me. I just let people be who they want to be,
Right.
you know. And I'm
And talking of that, you know, there's a lot of criticisms of people's choices and whims and so on. But there's a lot of racism. There's a lot of
definitely
nasty feelings towards gay and transgender people who are different, who want to be different. I had a friend of mine actually sitting in my living room 2 or 3 weeks ago who said to me, because she happens to be gay, she said to me, "You don't understand. You've never been." And I'm thinking, hold on, because I am the weirdest of everybody. I mean, I told dead people, come on. I mean, I've been called many names. I've been called anti-God. I mean, I've been criticized and harangued for my beliefs and so on. Of course, I understand what it's like to be you know, different, let's say. But getting back to Michael, your angel, can you describe him for us very briefly? It'll prove my point. Not that I've ever seen you have any issues with racism or gay or whatever,
never.
but
I've never had that.
but there are people out there who could not possibly imagine that an angel could be anything other than what they perceive an angel to be. So can you describe Michael for us, please?
He was, I'd say, mid-20s to late 20s, black man,
Is not was.
a black man, mustache, you know, just a normal looking, I want to say human.
Good
Pardon me?
looking guy?
Yeah, yeah, just a normal looking young guy,
Right.
but
But black.
wasn't normal,
But
but wasn't
but
normal.
black. And you
Yeah,
know, I
black
mean,
man.
I just get so tired of this. I'd like to hear your opinion now. I get so tired of this, all this black power, and I get it, you know, in a way, I get it, but you know, we black women have to stick together. The politician who only invited black people to a cocktail party or whatever that was going on, it's not about black power. I don't feel it's not about white power. It's about power for all of us. It doesn't matter what color or gender or whatever it is you are. I mean, I just wish that people would stop going on and on about black power, and include us white people for a change, because I want power too. We all want power, and we shouldn't be black or white or yellow or green or whatever it is. We shouldn't be. We should all be a part of this human race, tolerant and understanding, and basically accepting of each other for our beliefs and for our color or for our gender, whatever it is. And I think sometimes it saddens me when I hear people who are really onto the black power kick, because it's almost as if they're, in a way, sort of making people more nervous, if you like, making people who aren't black maybe more nervous. It frustrates me to pieces when I hear, Black Power Day, Black Women's Power Day. I don't think there's a white Women's Power Day anywhere at all, and they should be. What I'm talking about is, if you want equality, then you've got to show that you want equality by stop using the race card or the transgender card or the difference card. If you want equality, can we all see each other as equal and needing each other, and needing to find power within each other and compassion within each other, no matter what your beliefs or your gender or your race is? Al?
Well, it seems to me like you used to be able to disagree with a person of color, and that's okay. You disagree, but now, if you do disagree, you're a racist. Everything is racist. I don't know how that started.
But I think there's so much hatred in the world as well, and politics, and people in politics encourages it, and so on. Al, what do you think? What do you have to say here?
I think this could be a much, much larger conversation about race. I think it's one of those things where those groups need a voice. So you could see the why of it.
Of course.
But at the same time, I think we're at a place in this country where, to Gary's point, we can't have any conversations. We can't have any discussions. Things are so polarized, and I think you've said this a number of times. World just needs kindness. We need to be inclusive. We need to just accept people for who they are and what they represent more than anything else. And Gary, to your point, if they think the sky's purple, that's okay. The sky's purple for them, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those.
My angel was black, and I love that. I don't care.
Right.
It doesn't
So,
matter.
Gary, for you, like it's interesting because we talk about everything as attitude, Rosemary, right? And we talk about having a positive attitude a lot of times on the show, like in past, through what are challenging times for a lot, and it varies. The challenge of what people are going through varies, and we're not here to judge those challenges or the pain or anything of that nature anyway. But for you, Gary, you've explained that you really have always maintained a positive attitude throughout. Even when there was this lack of reciprocal or recognition of you, or acceptance of you, or inclusion of you. And the biggest thing that I'm hearing, I'd like to hear, what is the biggest thing that changed in your attitude before this sort of epiphany, and then after this epiphany? And by the way, an epiphany is really great to have, but you need to act on that epiphany too, which I think you have. But I would love to, like, what in your mind, your attitude has stayed positive throughout. What was the biggest change in you? Was it, as you discussed, that tolerance? I think it is that, but there's also something else there too, which I know, but I want you to talk about that.
I'm just more tolerant of everything around me. The big thing about myself is I started to look at things that I didn't like about myself and trying to find a way to change those things. I just wanted to appear more positive than I did before. Even though I tried to be positive before, I tried to make it appear that I was, mostly to myself. And little by little, I'm hacking away at things that I don't care about myself. Like drivers, some crazy drivers used to drive me crazy. Now I just wish them a safe trip instead of calling them what I used to, you know. I just, Godspeed, be safe. It just changes everything. I want to change myself to the positive while I'm here and not wait to get on the other side and say, geez, why was I like that? Or
If
I want to go there I want to go to the other side without any baggage, I guess, is what I'm saying.
you want, when it's your
Yeah.
time, it's, you don't want to take any if onlys. If only I've done this, or if only I've tried that. Sorry, Al, I cut you off.
Yeah, I don't want to have to.
Yeah, Rosemary, it just reminds me of what you have said to me a number of times, that let God and let go. And I hear a lot of that with you, Gary, now. Maybe not as much before, but you've kind of transitioned.
Basically, actually let go and let God. Yes.
Let go and let God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let go and let God. Yeah.
I want to come to the chat room for a couple more minutes. I can see we're sort of, Gary said to me, what are we going to talk about for an hour? And I said, I promise you it's going to go quick. And it's it really is going quickly. But so are there any more comments or quick questions in the chat room for Gary or Al or myself, whatever? But for Gary here, he's the best. So.
All right. Well, Sandra says, I think I needed to hear this story. I had the same kind of thing happen in my family. It was so sad. I need an angelic visit.
Or maybe this is your angelic visit. Keep going, Chris. Anything else?
Mark says, my personal angel led me to find out what his name was while I was road trip. Completely love came to be. I asked him what his name was as I drove over a hill and I saw a town called Jerusalem. Instantly, I knew that was his name.
Great. We love that story. See how many stories there are. One more, Chris.
Jeff says, cultural experiences around the world is one way to get over racism. My growing up without any other races made perspective what it was.
Okay. All right. So, Al, do you have any other? Excuse me. Do you have any other questions for Gary, or do you have anything that you'd like to say to Gary?
So both to Gary and to you, Rosemary. And again, something that you mentioned to me, and I think it applies as far as your attitude, Gary. I think it aligns with what sort of you transitioned to from an attitude perspective. Rosemary, you told me a while back. I don't know if you remember this conversation. It was a while back where you talked about letting things sort of flow through you and not affect you versus trying to stop them, right? And the energy taken to stop negative energy is far exceeds if you have the ability to let things flow through you, accept them for what they are, and just kind of go out the other side, right? And
right.
Seems like, Gary, that's the attitude that you have now. Rosemary, if you want to add to that, if I missed anything in that, but it resonated with me a lot. Yeah.
I was just thinking of the analogy that I will often use. I don't know if I use the same analogy with you, but it's like sometimes life itself for all of us is a bit like, we stand in a river, fast flowing current, and we try to direct the river. We try to direct the flow. We try to stop it. We try to halt it, and the more we try to stop it and the more we try to halt it, the more the river swirls around us and gets us crazy, and eventually we can drown in our own sorrows, literally, just as if we were to try and stop a free-flowing river. Very often, if we're in a situation where there's turbulence around us and everything is going wrong in our lives, the best thing to do is just to allow the river to flow its way. Go with the river, go with the flow, don't fight it, go with it, because very often as we're going with the flow of the river, or as we're going with the flow of life itself, this is what, this is our way of allowing God to flow through us and allow the universe to direct us and to steer us. Of course, there are times when we need to fight, of course there are, but so often we fight against the small minutia in life. We get irritated, and we, like the driver on the road, we're fighting the flow when we say, what does he think he's doing? How stupid is that? We're fighting the flow when we allow all of these small little bits of minutia to get in the way of us seeing who we really are, who we want to really be, and it gets in the way of allowing God to flow through us. And if we allow God to flow through us, we also allow God to take charge of our lives, which is an absolutely great thing as far as I'm concerned. And we allow these experiences to come into our lives, Gary, just as you've had. So anything else you want to say, Al? We're actually getting, believe it or not, we're actually getting close to time. So
I'd love to hear from Gary and that flow, that allowance of that flow. Gary, you mentioned when you had that experience, things kind of slowed down for you. And we're not exerting that energy to stop or to redirect or to do, allowing that flow. In my experience, just speaking for me, allows sort of time to slow down and get better perception of things, better judgment of things, make more, have more clarity in decisions. But I love how you described that piece about that sort of everything kind of slowed down and you heard nothing. So like basically solely focused on your angel.
It's
yeah.
almost as if you're in a bubble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gary,
Yeah, nothing else was happening around me. It was just him and me.
we're talking about a busy supermarket, right? With the carts clanging and banging and the noise of other shoppers and people dragging carts through and so on and so forth. And of course, aside from that, you've got the traffic as cars are pulling in and out and so on. I mean, this is a busy place. So for you to say all of a sudden it was,
I couldn't hear all that.
Right.
Until I turned around, and then I could hear the people and
Right.
the clanging and everything.
Right. And I think you also told me that when this happened and he put his hand on your shoulder at the end of this and said, "You have a good day now." You turned around because you just wanted to say to some. Did you see that? Did you see what just happened? You wanted to see if anybody else was seeing or had seen what you had seen, but realizing everybody else was just busy doing their own thing, getting on with their own thing. And that's when you turn back and poof, he'd gone.
Yeah, poof.
Yes. So
They say the old saying that you hear, "Don't sweat the small stuff." It's all small stuff.
even the big stuff at the end of the day,
it's all doesn't
when
matter.
our time here is done, when our time here on this earth is done, at the end of the day, it's all small stuff. We will be reunited with those we've lost. Some of us are going to have to face the fact that we weren't as nice or as good or whatever as we could have been or should have been. But I think what you're saying to me, when I love the fact that you're saying when it's your turn to go, you want to be somewhat satisfied that you did everything you could to do the best that you could.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're here anyways.
Like to elaborate on that?
I mean, we're here to be the best we can be. I mean, all this other stuff gets in the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
You know,
Unfortunately, we
it's,
allow it to get in the way, don't we? That's the unfortunate thing.
yeah.
Um,
Not me, not anymore.
so, all right. So I'm going to go to both of you again. Uh, I'm going to say my piece. Then Al, I'm going to have you have your last words for the show, not forever, but for the show. And we're going to, excuse me, we're going to be doing this again in another couple of months or so, I think. And then Gary, I'd like you, if you sort of would like to think of anything you might say to anybody who's listening now, so little words of wisdom or something. I'd like to give you the last word if I can before I then have the last word and say goodbye to everybody. But so I just think that I've wanted you to be able to tell this story because I know that people have heard the story, but I think when you listen to it from the person who it actually happened to, I'm sure, I think it makes it much more real and a much more powerful story. Al.
Yeah, just that I love hearing Gary's story, and it for me it's a lesson in we're all of us here have a lot of life experience, and that having a positive attitude is not a short game, right? It's a long game. It's a marathon. It's an evolution that sometimes doesn't happen till we're much older, right? But to continue to work on it, Gary, like you seem like you still are. It's not like, hey, I'm deciding to do that. That's it. You have to work on that every day. I love hearing that piece, and I think it's a really valuable lesson for anyone out there that it's a process. It's an evolution. It takes time sometimes. Sometimes certain things need to happen for you to shift your attitude, but actually acting on those big signs is really important. And it seems like you've really you've done that. Some people could even take the really strong message that you got in the visit from the angel and still dismiss it, right? Some people would do that, but you didn't, and you seem like you're really this has really helped shape you as a person, had your soul grow in a really cool way. So just kudos to you on that. I just love hearing the story.
Gary?
I just, negativity slows you down. I mean, we're here for such a short time. And when you waste so much time being negative about things, it just slows you down. It wastes your time here. And your time here is so fast, you don't realize it until it's almost over. And if just people can try and think that my experience happened to them, because it can, and that angels aren't up flying around somewhere. Mine was like an arm's length away,
Right.
right in front of me.
Right.
And they're there. You just can't see them until they want to be seen. That's all.
As I often say, angels can be that little snot-nosed kid in the street with dirty clothes and snotty nose, and that angel can be your angel can be that guy you sit on the bus next to, stinky and smelly and homeless, and you really don't want to sit next to him. You'd rather be anywhere else, but he could be your angel. Angels come in many shapes and they come in many forms, and and I think that if we can just focus on making our angels the happiest, and seeing us working on ourselves and seeing us trying, even if we can fail again and again and again, seeing us trying, our angels will smile down on us, knowing that we're trying, even if we're failing, and getting up and trying again. I think, angels are messengers of God, of that God force, that universal God force, which is out there and surrounds us all. And I really feel that, if we can think on that, Gary's is one angel story. I have several over the years. You'd expect me to, I guess. But there are many of you out there, many of you listening perhaps, who have your own angel stories. We'd love to hear about them if you'd like to send them to us. The email is rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Just send us your stories. We're happy to talk about them. Even if you'd like to be a guest on our Everything is Attitude show, we'd love to have you as a guest. If you've had an experience that's changed your attitude, whether it's angels or something else, please email us. Let us know if you'd like to be a guest. Not so harrowing, Gary, right? It was okay, right? Yes.
Just don't make your angels sad. That's
Yeah,
all.
there you are. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. So, Chris, I know we're almost out of time, right?
We're getting very close.
Okay.
Michelle did have a comment if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, any comments or any other questions? Yes.
I guess it's Michelino. I once happened to meet someone who, after a brief exchange of words, seemed to disappear. This helped me remember that we are not as alone as we sometimes think we are.
Yeah.
Well, we like that. And Gary, I think you can definitely vouch for that. Anything else, Chris, before we close?
No.
Okay, so we're not sure who our next guest is going to be. As I've said to you all, if you've had an experience, anybody you know has had an experience, or you've had a change of attitude for some particular reason or another, please email us, rosemary@rosemary.com. I would, of course, like to thank Gary for being our guest today, and my co-host, Al. I would like to say lovely to see you, and we'll do this again in a couple of months or so. And who knows what guests we'll have on. We have to work on getting guests on this show, because I think it's always interesting and fascinating to see people with negative attitudes having a major change because of an incident that happened to them. I think it's always fascinating to talk about attitude. And you're right about having a longer conversation maybe about trying to be inclusive. It's not Black Women's Day or Black Man's Day or White Women's Day or Black or White Man's Day, or who knows, or yellow or green or whatever it is. Let's all have it. Let's all of us, inclusive, all of us, in this human race of ours, which is, fraught with so many difficulties. As my spirit guide Grey Eagle would say, your world needs gentleness. We need kindness. We need gentleness. We need forgiving, and we need love. And if we can maybe even just include some of those things in our daily lives, that can change our attitudes very much so. So I'd like to say again, Al, thanks a lot. Anything else before you go?
I just want to say, one planet, one people.
Oh, I love it, Gary. I love it. So thanks for joining us, everybody. I love that. We're going to use that, one planet, one people. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we shall see you next time. We have our show on Thursday. What is it? The Spirit World sees all on Thursday. I'm coming up with a blank here. And I think it's this coming Friday that we have a Cracking Up show. Is that right, Chris?
That is correct.
So a lot happening this week. Until I see you all again, please, everybody. Thanks, Chris, by the way. And, of course, thanks to Grey Eagle as well. Please, everybody, have a very blessed rest of the day. And have a very blessed rest of the week, everybody. Be positive. One planet, one people. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.